Hello and welcome to my desk where I edit all my videos and finalize print patterns. Last year I made a lot of art and my goal was to turn most of that art into print patterns which I could apply to my print-on-demand sites like Society6, Redbubble, Teespring, Spoonflower. I had a goal to do that before the end of the year, but that didn't happen, so I'm kind of using this video as an excuse to do that, but also show you my process on how I make seamless repeat patterns from my artwork, since I did see some of you ask how I go about doing that. First, a little disclaimer, I want you guys to know that this video is not the only way to make patterns. I do have a background in graphic design, but I am not a professional textile designer or surface designer. The process you see in this video is just my own preference, and it's definitely not the only drawing apps you can use or programs you can use to make patterns. Also, technology upgrades quickly nowadays, so by the time you're watching this video, my information could be out of date and I might be doing it totally different a year from now. Over the holiday, I tried some online classes that teach you different ways to make patterns, and I tried some different apps. And I also found a lot of things that I didn't like. I ended up going back to like the old ways that I was doing things, so you just kind of have to do your own research and try your own thing. There is a wealth of resource on YouTube and Skillshare, so I will link some down below that helped me. For those of you who also make patterns, I would love to read your experience in the comments if you have any tips or tricks to share. I really enjoy drawing the motifs or elements of my patterns on my iPad in Procreate, and especially now with the Apple Pencil being so easy to use, I find it more fluid and natural-like to draw on this now. Starting my artwork on here allows me to make it a high resolution to begin with and edit my artwork and fix mistakes, but I still do like painting. It's just that that process is a little bit longer to turn that into a pattern. For example, my cheetah pattern, which I painted in a previous video, I really liked it and then wanted to turn that into an actual pattern. But because it was so big, I had to take a high-res photo of it because I don't have a scanner that large. I was able to turn it into like notebook covers or postcards, smaller things, but when it came to wanting to expand that onto larger products, it's a little bit more difficult because the raw file I have to work with is only so big. And I could totally cut out the shapes and elements of this pattern and color correct it all, but I found it easier to just recreate the elements of this pattern in Procreate using the original artwork as a guide, and this also gives me the opportunity to fix any line work if I want to and start it at a larger canvas at a higher resolution. This canvas is going to be a square swatch that I can just put all the elements in and then later rearrange those motifs to then tile it into a seamless pattern. So now I have all my pieces on their own layers so I can adjust them however I want to, and I'm going to export this file into Photoshop, so I need it to be a PSD. It is possible to make the final swatch in Procreate, but I'm so used to working in Photoshop and I work faster there and it's just easier for me. And something I just found out that is in Photoshop that really helps in the 2021 version is a new feature called Pattern Preview. I do believe Illustrator has something like this, but it hasn't been in Photoshop, so I'm really excited that this is now an option. Part of the headache of making patterns is that you can't see the final result until you actually do it and then trial and error, but this gives me a look at what the final pattern is going to look like as I edit. This makes the process so much smoother. I can take the guesswork out of what it's going to look like and rearrange as I work on it, make better layout decisions and spacing. I like that it also duplicates the graphics for you, so you don't have to worry about aligning them to make a seamless swatch. Outside of Pattern Preview, this makes more sense. You can see it cuts off the cheetah right here, so when those are tiled together, they will be seamless. I'm not like sponsored by Adobe or anything, I just think this is really amazing because I haven't found any solution like this for raster images on any other app. For this pattern, I'm going to make the canvas smaller so the elements are closer together. And now you can watch a time lapse of me rearranging everything and lining it up to how I think looks best. To me, this part is really fun. I think it's kind of like a game of creative Tetris or a puzzle where I search to find the right balance of negative space, scale, color combination. It's the designer in me that really enjoys this process. Something I did notice about the pattern preview option, I don't know if this will be updated later by Adobe, but when I rotate some of the images on the edge of the swatch, it will cut it off. It can be kind of finicky, but if I keep that image inside the swatch and rotate it, then it's fine. And a lot of this process is me zooming in and zooming out to see if the pattern is looking right. I think this looks good right here, so I'm going to exit the pattern preview. And here's my final swatch with the seamless edges so it can tile properly and do a proper repeat. And I add this swatch to my patterns library in Photoshop. When it comes to knowing what size to make my pattern, every print-on-demand site has their own help center with all the dimensions and specs. I always look at that first so I know what my file setup should be. In this case, for the cheetah pattern, I'm going to make this into wrapping paper, so I've set it up according to Society 6's specs. Making a new layer for my pattern, I double-click it to get to the layer style options, and on that menu is something called Pattern Overlay. There I can find all the thumbnails of the swatches I've created, and I just select which one I want. And sometimes I forget the layer needs to be filled, not transparent, for the pattern to show up. I can always go back to that pattern overlay menu and change the scale of the pattern, move it to find the right cropping. Also, I can angle it if I need to, though I don't really use this that much. And sometimes I leave a preview of that pattern open while I create other kind of products with the same elements so that everything is cohesive. And some sites like Spoonflower, it's a great site that's been around for a long time. It allows you to make and sell your own fabric. But for their setup, they only need the repeat swatch, and then their program makes the pattern for it. So in addition to making multiple files of this pattern in different sizes, I also save just the repeating swatch for sites that only need that. Onto some of my other patterns. You might recognize this from my fruit art challenge. This and more of them are already drawn in Procreate, and I have them mocked up into more of a pattern sketch. This is not seamless. This is more of me just playing around with the elements, but I'm pretty glad that I did save those because now I have an idea of what I want the actual repeat to look like. I'm going to start fresh with a square canvas here. This is 12 by 12 inches, but it could be smaller. Sometimes I like to keep it large so I can add more elements inside, and then it won't look so repetitive. And here's more time lapse of me designing the repeat, figuring out where I want things to go. While doing this, I try to align the pieces so that it's not so obvious where the swatch begins and ends. So here you can see there's definitely a square shape, and that's what I don't want. That's one thing that helps me know where I should put things so that I can kind of fool your eye so it's not so obvious where the square is. I know you can prevent that by doing a half drop pattern, but in my skills I am not there yet, so I'm just sticking to basic patterns for the moment. At this point, I do have all my artwork done into repeat patterns. I just need to upload them to my shops. So if you're interested in buying any of my artwork across a variety of products, go check out my shops. Links are down below. Also, follow me there so you can get updates as I continue to upload more art. Anyone who signs up for my monthly mail Patreon tier in January will receive the Cheetah vinyl sticker I showed in this video, along with a couple of art print postcards. If you're interested, I'll link that down below. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like and of course, subscribe. A big thanks to my studio support patrons for helping me make more videos. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!